everybody. Welcome. Okay, make sure that we've got everything up and running like I want it, so I can see what I'm doing here. And hello to you this fine Saturday, December what? 11, 2021. All right. Last night was crazy, wasn't it? It was absolutely insane. Let me check my volume. Okay. It was insane if you were on Twitter. Welcome, TCE. I hope that you and yours are safe and doing okay. Is everything all right for you guys, TCE? Daisy Joe's close? Yes. Here's the story, and ultimately, Daisy and TCE, this is why. Did I put Mayfield or Mayfield? What did I put? Hold on. I thought I corrected that. I did put Mayfield. Okay, hold on. On the wrong end of the state, aren't I? Mayfield. Yeah, Maysville is actually Mayfield, Kentucky. Okay. Maysville is actually in eastern Kentucky. The very bad weather was centered around western Kentucky, southern Illinois, Arkansas, Missouri. I believe that's the 4 states. Yeah, I fixed it, Shane. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I had fixed I had repaired something else in the body of the description, and I neglected to fix my title. So thank y'all for helping me with that. In case you haven't noticed, I and the rest of my family, we have lots of ADHD, like the real thing, in our family, and so we don't take medication and stuff for it. We try to manage it with behavioral stuff. So Mayfield, Kentucky, among the most charming cities in America, erased. Quad state tornado breakout, kills and injures hundreds. One small town in Kentucky has touched my heart on the biggest tornado has erased it overnight, December 11th, 2021. Okay, so it's good. Save changes. All right, thank y'all for helping me. I need editors. Y'all are the greatest editors ever. Thank you. Bowling Green and Taylor also hit quite hard. Yeah, there was a town in Arkansas where a nursing home was just basically eradicated. Same type thing. The whole roof of it was taken off, and people hurt and killed. So there were many victims, no doubt. Thomas Randall, absolutely. I'm sure TCE, I cannot imagine that there was much sleeping happening in Kentucky and Illinois and Missouri last night. I just can't, imagine. So, the devastation, Shane, I don't know. You guys, we face this kind of thing on the coast, right? With the hurricanes that come through. The problem is that when there's a hurricane, we have warning, right? I mean, if for all intent and purposes, we can have as much as a week or more warning. And because they happen fairly often, people build their homes in a way that they're immune to 200-mile-an-hour wind, correct? I mean, we have special windows, we have coverings, we built where I live. My house is literally up off the ground. So we have time to prepare and plan and get ready for these horrible storms that come through. But these people in Western Kentucky, there was no planning. They knew there were going to be storms, right? They had a heads up that it was going to be a stormy night. But can we face it? It's December, and if you live in Hurricane Alley, December's not really one of those months where you're spending a lot of time in the basement or in the bathtub, you know? So when they come out and they say we're going to have these storms and be careful and we could have tornadoes, you it's just hard for you to wrap your head around what actually happened. It's very difficult to understand what happened. I think that if you go back and you listen to the weather people that were on last night as this was playing out live, you can see the incredulity. Like many of them look like they're in shock as they're looking at these radars that defy comprehension. You can tell that they're not sure what they're seeing, if they can believe their instruments. I mean, there's some question about it. And then I think it's a rare thing for me to watch someone live, for me to watch someone live or to see live television where they affect me emotionally, like in the moment. But I was watching, I think it was Reed Timmer, maybe, one of the storm chasers, right? And he had gotten several really amazing videos of the horizon that showed multiple, like 5-6 tornadoes in one shot. I mean, it almost seemed evil, like what you were looking at. There was so many tornadoes in the air, and it just defied logic. But there was one moment they had been following the great big tornado as it was moving toward Mayfield. It had not reached yet, but it was on its way. They had eyes on it, and they were recording, and there was a big flash of lightning in the background, and so the tornado lit up. You could see the outline. And the blackness, first of all, it was enormous, right? It was huge, like 3 miles wide, literally 3 miles wide, not the path, the width, the radius of the tornado, 3 miles. It was enormous. And it was so black. I mean, it was just so dense, right? And they were talking, they were kind of excited, because they're weather chasers and they like the wild weather. And they were excited and they were talking. But when that lightning lit up and they saw the actual tornado itself, you can hear somebody say, "Oh, holy God." And then they just get so quiet, like there's no sound. And you can just feel. And then the moment is broken a minute later or so, and somebody says, "You can see damage." And so then at that point, you begin to see these lights going off, and whatnot on the ground. So it was quite emotional. It was terrifying, and it was an awful, awful thing. So if you were watching as this was all playing out last night, it was really hard to believe that it was real. And in the light of day, it's even worse. And now, of course, we have people here today that live in that area, and they're just searching for information, right, about anything they can hear. I don't have that information. I'm on the coast in Texas, but I was thinking about the contrast that occasionally we do have these enormous hurricanes that carry that type of power, but you're talking about an area that is prepared for that type of a storm, and they get a week or two notice, and they work hard and they prepare their property, and then they leave town, right? You go away, whether to North Houston or Central Texas, you leave the coast and let Mother Nature have her way, and then you come back to pick up the pieces. And it's a terrifying feeling for me to think about those people in Mayfield that did not have that luxury. They didn't have the luxury to run. They didn't have the luxury to be in houses where they could tell themselves, "It's okay, we're tornado compliant." The building code is up to the hurricane, um, specifications. So it's really it's a shocking thing. So I kind of wanted to. I didn't know how many people happened in the middle of the night. I didn't know how many people were even aware of it happening, but I wanted to put up some contrast. Now, I'm tell you what I'll do for those of you that live there in that area. Let me hold on. Let me get a link. If you would like to come up on panel and kind of talk about what your experience was, then you can. Although, please, please, please listen. In no way do I want you to come up if you're traumatized. I don't want you to feel like you're being exploited. You're not. But I also don't want to shut you out of a conversation that is your real life, right? I'm telling you, I'm in Texas. I wasn't anywhere close to any of this. But there is the link. If you would like to tell your perspective, but if you want to keep your privacy and grieve in private, then absolutely you should do that. So please don't think the link is inviting you up here to exploit. No way. But I don't want to shut you out of the conversation. There are Facebook posts of people that are looking for loved ones, and I think that when I show you this, you'll have an understanding for why these Facebook posts exist. So Mayfield is in Graves County, and it is in western Kentucky. The population is about 10,000 and I think 70 for 2021, and it is on the very, very tippy tip of the left side of Kentucky, right? So it's just a little bitty area. It covers about 7 square miles. It's only 476 feet above sea level, so it's a small little town basically. And the people are pretty much spread out, I suppose. But anyway, notable people. I didn't look to see who notable people were. Let's see. Cornbread Red is from there. He's a billiards player. Betsy Cook. Oh, Randy Galloway, Texas radio personality. He's from Mayfield. Lucian Anderson, U.S. representative. Chuck Taylor was a professional wrestler. Ellis Wilson, artist. So there are notable people that have come from Mayfield. Mayfield has been hit before by big tornadoes. In 2016, there was an EF3 that ended up hurting 10 people, but absolutely nothing like what they're experiencing right now in this moment. This is really unlike anything, really most anything that's ever happened. The largest tornado, well, not the largest tornado. I think they're about to decide that the one that hit Mayfield last night, that is very likely among the largest tornadoes in the history of the country. If your measurement is the length of time on ground and the height or the size of the debris field, correct? So what you're looking at on the on your screen, that is an image of the debris field last night as the tornado is actually going over Mayfield, okay? And the top part of that's all of the debris where it's picked things up off the ground and cars and torn up buildings and such. The debris went higher than 33,000 feet, which is where the 747s are flying. Wrap your mind around that. So this was an enormous, that you can't even, for just lay people that don't know anything about weather, which I am definitely one of those. I mean, I like weather, but I don't know enough about it to, they're looking at it as being truly one of the biggest, if not the biggest, tornado that's ever happened in the United States. Now, in terms of loss of life, at this point, it's not even anywhere close. In 1920, I believe it was 1925, there was a tornado that hit, it was called the tri-state area, and it was Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas, I think. It's more than 600 people, almost 700 people overall were killed, and that was in the 20s. I know last night, as this was, playing out on Twitter, and people were praying and, just kind of wringing your hands, waiting what would have happened and become of these places. There were people that, of course, jump on their political soapbox. Oh, it's global warming. See, you got to believe global. Come on, stop. Quit. Same kind of odd disaster in 1925. I mean, Mother Nature is a terrifying beast. If you don't believe that, talk to people on the coast who live these hurricanes year after year, or the people in Europe that have the big what do they call them, cyclones. Look at Hawaii and the volcanic eruptions. I mean, Mother Nature is a beast. I mean, she is to be respected and feared, no question about that. They really don't have an idea at this point on the number of deaths, right? They really don't have that idea. If you get on to Twitter this morning and look, it's just all over the place. They're saying they fear as much as 50 dead. They fear as much as 100 dead. They fear 25 dead. They've already passed some of those numbers in the identified dead. There was a man this morning that was being interviewed, a fireman that was being interviewed. I'm not going to tell what state he was in or where he was, but he began to weep because he said that they were, to try to get to somebody that was alive, they were literally having to crawl over people that had been deceased. So it is about as bad as it can get. It really is. It can't be worse. It really can't. This is a story that really deserves your attention and your prayers today. There's no doubt about that. It's really, and the tsunami. You're right in the not Middle East, in the Far East. Was it Christmas Day tsunami, right? Your mind cannot even wrap around the amount of water and the damage that happened without warning, right? I think there's a movie about the Phuket tsunami. They were just playing. The sun was shining. It was a beautiful day, and the next thing, all hell broke loose. And that is kind of what happened to this town, this county. But you also have to remember, it wasn't just the tip of Kentucky. Illinois took a bad hit. Bowling Green, Kentucky took a hit. Arkansas had people killed, and I'm missing one. The Amazon warehouse, is that Missouri? No, that was Illinois. There was an Amazon warehouse, one of those super warehouses. It was one of the first. So I think the first big hit was the nursing home, and that was pretty sobering. Somebody had a drone, and while the cops were still, the EMS were still responding, driving up, right? I mean, I don't know who it was that had the drone, but it was in the air before all of the ambulances and stuff got there. And it just lifted the top off of this nursing home, and it was pretty awful to see, because you could see down into the individual rooms in the nursing home. And I'm not going to talk about that any more than that, but I think that video has been removed. But it was, you got to have respect for these storms. And there was a video that I watched that showed, it looked like to me that it was mounted maybe on the courthouse in Mayfield. It was a camera, you could see the town, and all the lights were on and people were driving around and whatnot. And then you could see the horizon turning super, super, super black. And then gradually the lights began to go out, right? It just moving one by one toward the camera. There were people in cars. You could see them trying to drive away. You know, they were trying to get out. But the question is, if you see the radar and you see the size of this horrific tornado barreling down on your little town, and you live in a little wood frame house that was built, you know, back in the 20s, are you really going to try to ride out a tornado like that in your car? I mean, in your house? No, absolutely not. I mean, I know we're told to stay in our homes. We're told to get in the bathtub or go in the basement or whatever. But what happened last night, that wasn't the norm. There was no surviving that tornado. It was really the size of a hurricane, small, right? I mean, it was horrifying, truly. So you could see cars and stuff. So some people did drive away. They had warning. I think the news, the weather people did a great job getting the word out. And they were even saying, go wake up your neighbors. Go wake everybody up. You guys got to get out of there. You can't stay in the path of this storm. So there will be survivors. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking how many people were caught off guard. Maybe not too many. Maybe there wasn't big enough. I was really surprised when I saw that video how many cars were out on the road. I think they were trying to leave. I think they had a heads up what was coming and they were getting out. That's what my hope is. So my fingers are crossed that it will not be 500 people, right? Because right now the biggest one on record is a little bit over 600 people in one tornado. But we'll keep our fingers crossed and prayers that people were warned and they had enough time to drive and get away. Right? That's kind of where I'm at right now. So be careful about listening on Twitter and whatnot. The people that are giving you certain numbers of this many dead or that many dead, they haven't even begun. They don't even know. Like TCE said, if you go onto Facebook and you go to the city Mayfield page, it's just post after post of people looking for their loved ones. Okay, so this is not going to be a fast story. It's pretty horrible. So let's see. Let me put up. I wanted to show before where are my pictures? Let's see. If y'all give me just a minute, I'm going to open up. How do I want to do this? Oh, I think I'll do it on my. Okay, so this is from Live Storms Media. Let me share. So this is from the YouTube channel Live Storms Media. It is hard to wrap your mind around what you're seeing. Because to me it doesn't look real, right? Obviously somebody had a drone out, but it doesn't look real. It looks like a movie set. That's what I kept thinking as I was seeing these first images coming from this area. This is the courthouse. Okay, and I'm going to give you context in just a minute that will show. But look at these trees. The bark of the tree has been ripped off. Now, I've seen a tornado in the town that I lived in where the tornado literally lifted the asphalt up off of the ground. So the asphalt was pulled away and you were left with a dirt road underneath it. I've seen that with my own two eyes. But this is the Graves County Courthouse, and it had a tall steeple on the top, and obviously you can see now it's gone. So the level of destruction, it's very difficult for your mind to understand what you're seeing, right? So for example, in this picture, if you look over to the left, right? Look to the left, like right above where, okay, so you see where the volume icon is, where my pointer is. Look straight up from that, and you'll see 3 lanes right here. This was a bank. This was the drive-through here. So it looks to me, and it's like this. As you go through this town, it's just big footprints of where buildings used to be, and now there's nothing there. It doesn't, some of them, there's not even any debris there. It's just a asphalt, place. Because this is an area, they don't have 280 mile an hour winds. So when they build something, it's built to withstand rain, and it's built to withstand, the cold and the snow, but not 280 mile an hour winds. Even on the Gulf Coast, a tornado that came in with 280 mile an hour winds, even your hurricane code building would be dramatically challenged. So even if all of these houses had been built to code for hurricane, it would not have, it would have fared better, obviously. But what you see here, it was unsurvivable. It wasn't going to survive that kind of wind. So I'll let this go a little bit more. Let's see, right here. So this was kind of on the periphery of the damage. You can tell by looking over on the side here. The worst the damage being here where it's so flat. And I'm going to show you the buildings that used to be there on the horizon. They're not there anymore. Okay, so where my little small town that I grew up in, we were always told in the event of a really big, like tornado or, a nuclear weapon explosion, you should go to your post office because there'd be a fallout shelter in the basement, right? They're built, the big government buildings are built with concrete, and you expect them to be the strongest and that kind of thing. Well, this is your post office area right here, right? And even those buildings that were surrounding the post office, they still just couldn't stand the wind. It was just too much. And the post office did withstand a little bit better. You can see it at the very bottom of the screen. Post office was actually one of those buildings that managed to stand there. This one, probably this building had been there from the 20s, and it ended up falling over, right? It is very hard to wrap your mind around what you're seeing. It is. That's why, my channel, for the most part, we talk about true crime or forensic type, psychology stuff, right? But as I saw this, I was trying to make it make sense, because I was comparing it to the hurricanes that we face. And even a hurricane 125, 140 mile an hour wind. You guys do not understand the power of that wind. Some of you were actually on my live with me a few months ago when we were supposed to have a tropical storm, and Mother Nature played a joke and gave us a hurricane instead, and nobody was prepared, right? So I'm sitting in my room thinking I'm going to be listening to a thunderstorm, and instead we're having a hurricane. And I got nervous. I was upset because it's scary. And so I went live to talk to everybody, and people in my channel were just like, "What is that noise?" And I was like, "That is the wind. That is the hurricane right outside my door." But the amazing thing about that is that this house where it's sitting, it is built to hurricane specifications. It can survive like 450 mile an hour wind. So even with wind that got up to like 130, I think we got like 133 maybe. Even though you're in a really secure house and your brain knows that, feeling the intensity of the wind outside, and even the dogs, they kept looking at me like, "Are we okay, Mom? Is everything gonna be okay?" That was only 130 miles an hour. This is 283 mile an hour winds these people faced. It's mind-boggling. Truly, truly mind-boggling. You see this building here on the right-hand corner. You can look at their parking lot. You can see this was new building. And where'd the building go? It's just a pile. So it's so odd to look at. It's so hard to believe what it is that you're seeing. My heart is broken for these people, just broken. Now, one of the things I think that provides hope is that it does appear that the greatest amount of damage happened in the downtown area. Now, if you're a historian person or an architect history buff, you're going to be really upset because these buildings were beautiful and it was very charming and quaint and historical. But if you look up to the top of the screen on the left, you see this is where people were sleeping. This is where they lived. So the area of town where it hit, for the most part, because it was after midnight, there was nobody there, or there would be very few people in those buildings, right? Now, I know some of these old buildings, people make like apartment lofts, so I'm not saying there was nobody living there. I'm sure there was. But the mass of people, the greatest majority of the 10,000 population, hopefully, I'm thinking they were safe. And if you look at these houses over here, even this trailer house is completely intact. So my hope is, my fingers are crossed, that will end up saving a great number of that population. But I cannot imagine. This is a concrete, I believe this was a church. I think this is I got a picture of this church. What is the name of this church? I took a picture of it, but I don't remember the name of the church. The First Christian Church, maybe? I think that's what it was called. It wasn't like the United Baptist or United Methodist. I think it was called the First Christian. Let's see. I can find the church. Okay, that is not the church. That's the courthouse. loads of pictures of the courthouse because it's a beauty. Very, very beautiful. I'll go ahead and put that picture up. And remember, like I said, it's open image in new tab. And that's a good picture right there. Okay, so let me share this photograph of the courthouse. It's pretty somber to see. Okay, so that's the courthouse that's now gone, basically. You would have been in pretty good shape if you'd been downstairs. There's probably a basement in the courthouse too. Maybe, I'm not saying, but most of these towns had some kind of fallout shelter built in, like in the 60s and 70s. So, anyway, very beautiful, right? Very beautiful. Did you hear anything about the people trapped in the candle factory early this morning? There were a lot of people trapped in the candle factory. There were survivors, Water Loving Dog. And on one of the news stations, they actually have a lady who was in the, let me see if I can find that. Hold on, give me a minute to search and I'll find it. She did an interview. She was one of the ones that was trapped. They were working at the time that the storm came through. And so the building collapsed upon them and they were trapped, and she was obviously grateful to be alive, but she said that the survivors, they could hear each other talking. Some of them were together, and then they could hear them in other areas, and so they all started singing to try to keep themselves calm. It's pretty. Okay, it's not showing. Let me share the interview I found. Hold on just a second. And it's not going to let me make the interview bigger. I don't know why. Let me see if I can get it bigger this way. Yeah, right here. I got it bigger. Hold on. I'm getting this from, is this MSNBC? No. This is NBCnews.com. All right, so let me share that with you. And then if you want to go back and give them a listen so they get their view, that would be ethical. Share the screen. Share audio. And let me make it a full screen so you guys can see it. Is that a good enough? Yes, that's a good picture. Okay. All right, so I'm going to mute now so we can listen. Let me turn my sound all the way up too. Oh, actually, I've got my headphones ready. All right, here we go.
Safely. Kiana, we're so glad to see you this morning and that you're okay. If you can give us a sense, what was the scene like? What was it like inside that building where you were trapped, this candle factory, for 2 hours as the storm hit?
Well, good morning. It was extremely scary. It was extremely scary. Everything happened so fast. They had us in the area where you go in case there's a storm, and we were all there. And then the lights got to flickering, and then all of a sudden we felt a gust of, we could feel the wind, and then my ears kind of start popping, as they would, as if you're on a plane. And then we did like a little rock, like this way and this way, and then boom, everything came down on us, and all you heard was screams. The factory has a lot of Hispanic people. There's Puerto Rican, Mexican, and Guatemalan, and then there's a lot of African Americans and Caucasian. It's a diverse place, but you can hear people screaming and praying in Spanish and just hollering and trying to figure out what to do. And I went live. First I called 911, but then later I went live because I was trying to stay calm and keep everybody else calm and trying to get us as much help as possible. So if I went live, maybe, more people would come to try to help us and get us out of there. But it was the absolutely most terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life.
And Kiana, when you say something fell on top of you, was it a wall that fell on top of you? And did you worry you weren't going to make it out alive?
I did not think I was going to make it at all.
Okay, can I just say something? I know that I'm not a newscaster, and I have respect for people that do this when times are heartbreaking and tragic and terrifying. But she saw the photographs of the candle factory, and then she asked if the wall fell, but I think it was the whole building, right? Isn't that what it looked like to you guys? So I don't know. I guess those questions are designed to just keep the person talking, right? Sometimes the questions don't make a lot of sense or a little, sometimes irritating. But I'm also not an interviewer, so I don't know what that's like.
I was so scared. I was trying to stay positive, but after I think we were down there, and I was where I was at for at least 2 hours. And I fell in a very awkward position. My back was against the wall, and I was right by the water fountain. And so I didn't know, but behind the water fountain was an air conditioning unit. So when the search and rescue person came, and I believe his name was Nate, when he came, I said, can you please just get this off of me so I can move my legs? Because I couldn't feel my legs. I had been in this weird position for so long that I couldn't feel my legs. And so I asked him, can you just get this off of me so I can move my legs, please? He says, ma'am, we're trying. He said, but there's about 5 feet of debris on top of you.
Kiana, when you looked at that building after you were evacuated,
can you imagine 5 feet of debris, and you had been sitting in a weird position for 2 hours, right? So you might say, well, my God, I can't sit with my legs crossed on the floor for 10 minutes without, getting uncomfortable. The brain is its perfect drugstore, right? If you don't mess it up by adding a bunch of, nefarious drugs. It's its own perfect drugstore, and it can manipulate your experience as needed for survival. And so, miraculously, she's in this weird position, life-threatening. Her brain knew that, and so it was dumping all kinds of good drugs to help her be kind of unaware of the discomfort or pain, and to help calm some of her fears so that she could make the decision, hey, I should go live and ask for help and tell people what's happening. So that was just an example of that.
Evacuated after a couple of hours. Can you even describe what it looked like to you staring at the place where you used to work?
A complete mess. I mean, I didn't even walk around to go to the car when I got out. I mean, if you look like on the pictures, I literally had to climb up out of the building to get out from everything that fell on us. And so, like I said, I was one of the last people to get out in that little area that I was at. There was about maybe 6 or 7 of us. And so we were over there, we couldn't breathe. People were kind of coming in and out of consciousness and things. And so, they were telling us not to move, but one of my supervisors, his wife was stuck. And so he was getting her. But in order to get her out, he had to get somebody else out first. So we also had they had some prisoners working there from the Graves County Jail. And when I tell you, some of those prisoners was working their tails off to get us out. they were helping. And to see inmates, because they could have used that moment to try to run away or anything. They did not. They were there. They were helping us. And it was like once they got one person out, then it was just like we all just kind of fell on. We were able to get the debris under us to move around, and were able to get out. The water fountain and the air conditioning unit that was behind it was in between my legs. So like I had bruises on my legs and things, but I was able to, and with the help of the firemen, I was able to shift my body in a way, because we couldn't move it, but I was able to shift my body in a way where we were able to get out.
Okay, so that, I just thought that, that gives context to the picture that you're seeing there. We look at that from the drone, it just looks like a flat, maybe a parking lot that's got a bunch of stuff on top. Truth is, it's probably 20 feet of multi-story debris that's just pancaked down on top. So it is, there'll be so many stories coming out of this, this situation. It will be for the at least the next week or two. It will be, we will be hearing really traumatic stories and stories of heroes, just like she said. Even the inmates, it was just about survival and nothing else mattered in the moment. So human beings are resilient and wonderful, and at that moment politics didn't matter, did it? So it's a good moment to try to think, maybe we should get back to what's important and abandon some of the division that we've all adopted. All right, everybody. So I did not want to make this like this super long video like I typically do with the forensic psychology stuff. But I'll be back later on this evening, and we'll talk. We can do more on what happened in Mayfield, and maybe TCE or others might want to come up. Absolutely TCE. The trauma is real, and it for this young woman, in some ways the trauma can save you in the moment, right? It helps you keep things in perspective and not allow yourself to be overwhelmed. But then in the days and the weeks and the years that follow, all of that kind of got stored for later, it all comes crashing down on you. So I'm sure that she will go and get some help, someone to talk to, and try to mitigate those problems. But anyway, we can talk about it later on tonight, or we can do talk about some of the true crime, the trials that are happening. So anyway, probably be this for a while, right? But I wanted to call attention to it, and just show the difference between what we're seeing on television in the destruction to the actual beautiful, quaint town that 10,000 people called home, and how quickly it all changed. And put in that perspective that on the Gulf Coast with hurricanes, 283 mile an hour winds would be devastating. Here in the Gulf Coast, where we were prepared, I cannot even imagine having it happen in Kentucky. It's just amazing. All right. Well, look, y'all just keep up with the news, and I'll be back later on. All right. Talk to you later. Prayers, please. Prayers, and not only prayers for people that experienced it, but the relief workers that'll be going up to help. The medical personnel that are there, they'll all be traumatized. This thing will have ramifications for years to come. All right, we will talk later this evening.